This is ACOFAE. Laura Marie and Jessica Marie proudly present A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, a podcast. Fair warning, everything the hosts say is explicit, full of spoilers and adult content and shall not be used against them. They have opinions. Let's try not to drag anyone for expressing themselves and just have fun for an hour. We all deserve it.
This episode contains spoilers from the entire Empyrean series, including Onyx Storm, as well as Throne of Glass. There are also mentions from ACOFAE, Hofas, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and Shatter Me. For full list, please see show notes.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, your weekly deep dive into the fantasy, literature, and fandoms that we love. I'm Laura Marie.
And I'm Jessica Marie.
And today we are discussing Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros.
And if you've been following us for a while, you know that we might not always delve into theories or say our theories out loud unless we firmly have conviction and there's no doubt. But that's not the case with this episode. We get to dive into the Empyrean series with reinforcements. We brought on a very special guest and our Empyrean series expert, Aris. Welcome, Aris. Thanks for taking the time to speak with us.
Welcome.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me here.
No, I'm so excited because you know this series so much better than we do. I mean, I feel like we've had our conversations off the podcast too, that you felt like this series, the Empyrean series, really jump-started fantasy, your love for fantasy, the way it is separate from SJM. So like, why don't you share with us like your fantasy journey, like your Empyrean series journey? Like this is you. You're going to educate us because we've been just on vibes.
No pressure. Well, it's funny you're saying that because I started my fantasy journey because of you. So maybe you're the real expert here. I'm just saying. But I literally started with ACOTAR and then got obsessed. And I felt like Sarah was playing games with me. I would always tell Jess, like, Jess, Sarah is trying to play with me right now. Like, I know what she's trying to do. Like, she's trying to mess with me. So I feel like I just see like red lines in my head as I'm reading this stuff. But when I got to Rebecca and the Fourth Wing Empyrean series, I was literally like, okay, she's just like Sarah. She thinks she knows that I don't know what I know. And so that's kind of where it started. And I read the Empyrean series with my boyfriend too. So he just says a lot of like random stuff. But then I'm like, okay, wait, was that random? Are you on something here? Like additional red lines, like all over the place.
Do you feel like buddy reading with him helped or like added value to your reading experience with this series?
I think so, 100%, because he doesn't read books. So that was already like, it was an accomplishment already to get him to read it. But then when he's reading it faster than me and I have to be like, look, you need to slow down, okay? Like you're going too hard. That's when I know it's a good series. So I don't know. I feel like it aided a lot because then I would be sitting there like, ooh, something just happened. Like I can't tell you, even though you're like literally a chapter away. I can't tell you. You know, so it adds to the whole, like, I'm in it with Rebecca. You're not in it yet, you know, but I've always been in it with her. Little does she know. That's where my brain is at.
Now, one thing that we haven't really explored a lot on the podcast are theories. You tend to have a lot of theories. I know you had a lot of theories with ACOTAR, which were right 99% of the times. Have you felt that way with Rebecca's books, specifically like these fantasy ones?
I feel like Rebecca's getting me. I don't know what school she went to. She went to the school of trickery, but I feel like she's getting me for real. Because like I would be like so confident. I literally thought like, I don't know, maybe I'm skipping ahead here, but I thought I knew what her second signet was down. Like I thought I knew. I sent her a whole message.
Wait, did you DM her?
Yeah, it was like, girl, this is the second signet, and you're going to send me my advanced copy for getting it right. But I didn't get it right, so no advanced copy.
Copy. That's so...
No, yeah. I literally thought with my whole chest that it was going to be gravity, because, like, her hair changes color as it gets closer to the ground. She's always talking about my gravity, my gravity. Like, when she talks about Zayden, I really thought, but I don't know. That's why I say Rebecca's getting me, because she tripped me up.
I have just kind of like a vibes question. So, my history with this book was, or the series actually was, the first book I was like, okay. The second book I was like, meh. And this third book I was really into. And kind of my journey with that is I really sat with the first two books and I was like, am I being a brat? Am I not sitting with this and really loving and enjoying with this because I have all of these like preconceived notions about like all of this different stuff? Can I just not have fun? And that really kind of changed my readership of this series. And I am really like all vibes in, like 100%. I am ready to go. And I have a lot of fun with it. And I very active on social media, and I have seen some theories, but I have also seen some reviews of big fans of this series saying that like, yo, I didn't like this book, or like this, there was a lot going on here. There just like wasn't the focus on the romance, or there wasn't the focus on this. There's so many new characters. There's so many new things. I personally, again, all vibes, really loved this. I'm interested to see what your opinion is on this.
So I was like the opposite. I was like in it from Fourth Wing. And then I think this book kind of feels like a bridge to more tea in a way for me. I do think that like it could feel like, what in the hell, what are we doing here? Which is what I read or saw on TikTok. A lot of people were confused, you know? But I also think it's like more world building. I think about it like with Sarah and ACOFAE, like that book to me was literally like so hard to get through. Not saying Onyx Storm was hard to get through, but I feel like it had similar lulls in it where it's like we're preparing for something, but we don't know what we're preparing for. And so it's hard to get through it as quickly as like the ones where there's just like T, page after page, you know? I feel like the tea was littered about on this one. But I do think there was a lot more spice. I was like, okay, Rebecca, I see you.
I feel like there wasn't a lot of spice, but the spice there was went hard. I think there was like a TikTok that was going around where people, it was like one of the later chapters, chapter 40 something, 49 maybe, the spice with the chair. The chair spice. And there were people demonstrating how the logistics of that scene on social media. And I was like, we love education.
Wait, that's so funny. No, yeah. I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe it just was more like intense, and that's why it felt spicier than the other two for me. Like a little bit more spice.
At this point in the series, do you have a ranking of the order? Like, of the books that you like?
Iron Flame was my favorite. And then, I guess Fourth Wing, Onyx Storm. Is that bad?
No, it's your opinion. It can't possibly be bad.
Maybe like Onyx Storm, Fourth Wing are like this close to each other in battle. You know, like hard to pick. But like Fourth Wing might win out. Just because like that's when I met her.
She's just a baby. She's just a little baby. She's just a little baby.
Okay, we are in book 3. This is me keeping us on track. We are in book 3, and we have a lot of book here. It is long. It is dense. I personally have 20 pages of very detailed notes that I am not going to get in here because we will be here all day. But I am interested in kind of how we start this story. So I think it's very interesting that we're in book 3 and we are traveling everywhere. We are traveling everywhere. We're going, we're coming back, we're going, and we're coming back. That is usually a book 2 situation, but thinking they went everywhere in book 2 too. So this kind of makes sense.
Because it's a series, because it's not a confirmed trilogy. Usually it's like the confirmed trilogies. Book 2 is the travel book. But because it's a series, anything in between is more or less the travel books of like what you were saying, Aris, is like, this is the bridge. We need this to get to where we have to go. But it's not necessarily boring because sometimes they can be a little slow through. It's just a lot happening.
Yeah, definitely is just like it definitely is the bridge of like the world, like their world building, like, and something that bothered me is I feel like, and not to compare the two, but I feel like when we got to Throne of Glass, like the last two books, the tandem read ones, I'm forgetting, not the last two ones.
Empire Storm and Tower of Dawn.
Yes. Like I feel like with those two, we got a whole new map, like in the book, and this one we didn't get a map. So I'm like, girl, where are you taking me? I don't even know where I am right now, you know? Which was like my thing with the adventure plot of it. I feel like that is where she lost me with Onyx Storm. Like it was a lot of world building so that we know the Isles, but like we don't really know where they exist in this like world.
I'm looking at the map. You're right. It's not. Yeah, you can't keep them
because. Well, they said they have not sent cartographers out that far, so they haven't mapped it because this is again kind of like world building. And I love that you're describing this feeling of like, we don't know, because that's their feeling. Like they also don't know. So it's kind of this like pioneer kind of way, sort of. But let's talk about that. Let's talk about that because, all right, broad strokes on the plot. Zayden's a Venin. Aris, how do we feel about that?
I feel like, God, okay, here I go. I honestly feel like there are two things are going to happen, okay? I feel like she is either going to risk it all for her man, become a Venin, and, you know, and honestly, I feel like that's probably why her memories are wiped. She was probably like, here we go, buddy, I'm going to, like, fuck everybody up for you, you know? And he was like, this is not your destiny. Like, boop, Imogen, wipe the memories, you know? Or something like that. But I honestly feel like him being a Venin is going to cause us way more issues than everyone just dying. I literally feel like she's going to either go to the dark side or like, honestly, there is no other option. She's going to go to the dark side. I feel it in my soul. I just don't know when or why. I'm also trying to figure out what they want from her. Like, clearly they want her for something, and I think it has to do with her hair, especially with the what are they, the people of the what do they call the dune
the priestesses,
the priestesses,
yeah. Especially with that whole aspect of it. Like, I was already kind of thinking that, but now I'm like, her daddy must have dealt in Venin or something, and like either of those things are going to happen. She's going to find out her dad's still alive and that he's Venin, and then she's going to be like, okay, well, Venin are fine.
I just thought of something. Sorry, I just thought of something.
Or she's going to risk it all for her man, which I have mixed feelings.
Well, the foreshadowing, now that you say that, the foreshadowing was there because didn't she give that an option to him? She's like, what do you need me to do? Do I need to be Venin with you together? She was like giving different scenarios to him in that like one tiff that they were having.
Well, I feel like even in the forenotes, or I don't know what you call that either, y'all. I don't know the big words, okay? I feel like there's a lot of messages from her mom to her dad, and that to me is like even more. There's something. Why do they want her so bad if he wasn't doing some Venin shit, you know? And
her dad bringing her there.
Yeah. I feel like somehow he's tied into it. That's why they want her. And now they're going to use Zayden to get it. But it might work because she might do it for her man.
She might do it for her man. Our book starts like it like starts with like you know, the book of Brennan. I will not die today. Scratch that. I will save him. In your opinion, do you think that Violet and Zayden are toxic?
I don't know, because I like love them. So, you know, you don't want to like say that they're toxic because it's like, no, we don't wish this. But I mean, in the book, she basically says they're toxic. So I feel like I can't say they're not toxic if she's in it and she's saying they are toxic, you know, like they might be a little toxic.
maybe just a bit. Maybe just a bit.
Yeah. I mean, he rages out for her. Like, I don't know. I get it. You know, there's something about like a fantasy romance that like your emotions are just so much stronger than they would be like here now. And this real world, you know?
Like if somebody did that for you in the real world, you'd be like, whoa. But in fantasy, you're like, oh, that's because like she's his mate.
yeah, exactly. Like there's an added layer of like, you know, intensity to these like types of romances. So I feel like it makes sense that she would risk it all for him, you know? And who knows, maybe in the end we all like Venom. That's some fuck shit that the artists or the authors love to do in these books, you know?
That's interesting you bring that up. I've been thinking that kind of in the back of my head the whole time. Like there's going to be something where, because there have been a lot of interviews with Rebecca during this book tour where she has said just like kind of interesting little kernels of things. And one of the things that she said was, you know, the dragons are the ones that tell the writers their names. And there is no way for anyone to really know if the dragons are telling the truth.
The truth. I saw that.
Yeah, on which name that they're given. So then, because there's a throwaway line from I think like Theophany where she's like, you know, and you are bonded to two villains. Where it's like, okay, so like what is, you know, and then Tairn talks a lot about dragon politics and how he's willing to break a lot of laws. There's a lot of like stuff going on in the background that I really think is going to have a deeper impact later on in the series. But here specifically, did you think that Violet was as annoying as she was in book 2?
She was way more annoying in my opinion. Like she was more annoying. I can't stand to like, I'm going to save him. Like, girl, like let him save himself, honey. Like, you know, I get it. He's been enough for you. But at the same time, it's like, you're dragging everyone into your hot mess right now when there are bigger things going on than trying to save your man.
That's a toxic relationship, right? Yeah. It sucks all of your time and your energy into keeping it alive, right? And that's kind of what it is. But there's so much other stuff going on. So one of the criticisms that I saw of this book was that there was a lot of new characters introduced, new dragons introduced, and we're calling everybody by like different or first names. But I found that once we kind of settled into like our quest squad and kind of solidified who everybody was, that the cast of characters was nice. And I liked Halden just for what he created for the story. And I liked Arik and Imogen and Traeger and all these little intricate relationships that my first read through, I didn't really pay much attention to because I was like so sucked into the politics. But my second time through, I really enjoyed. Did you feel that all these new kind of aspects kind of took away from the core of the story, or did you appreciate this expansion?
I appreciated the expansion for sure. Like you said, I think Halden was a good add to the book. Like, oh shit, like it's not just Dane and Xaden. There's a whole nother man involved, and he's like king, like almost, you know. It's like very interesting. I do think something that I remember her saying is like the stakes get low when you kill someone and then you revive them. So I feel like using Traeger to be the one that like took the arrow was honestly like no tea, no shade, Traeger, RIP, but it was like so good for me because I felt like I could breathe because I didn't know him well enough where it was like I'm that devastated by his death. But in the same vein, I know Rebecca is going to hurt us. And I feel like this was just a soft blow to lead up to someone that we actually care about, like in the next book. Because even Mira lived, and it was like, oh shit, like I thought she was gone. So I feel like book 4, someone we care about is actually going, and they're going bad, I think.
And like she has good follow through for the most part, exception Mira. But like everybody she created Liam for everybody to love him. To kill him. Like, and talking this out, maybe it's because like she wanted the reader who is learning her style of reading for the first time, that it's very much like, take no prisoners. I will do the thing and follow through. Because then in book 2, she kills off Violet's mom and she stays dead. So here we are that like, this is also like This is a war college. This is military. There are stakes. And they say it time and time again in this book, in Onyx Storm, that if you're going to be a leader, you need to be comfortable with understanding death will be involved and picking and choosing what's the better option. Do you want to save your sister, but then you don't save all of these people? Or do you save all of these people and you don't save your sister? Like, there are stakes at play here.
Yeah. But I think, like, and especially because of that, and we know she writes like that, every death that we witnessed, yes, some of them were like, it's not good for anyone to die, but like, it just wasn't like as deep as like it could have gotten, which makes me feel like she's just soft launching like a fuck ton of death to come, you know? Like even Quinn's death, like, I don't know, like she's been around from the beginning, but just another person that I feel like her death was kind of just like, oh, like people die in war. Whereas like Liam's was almost like, oh shit, like Liam, you know? So I feel like we are on the horizon of mass deaths.
When you talk about building up a character to die, I personally think Riddick, like that he got so much time in this book.
I told my boyfriend the same thing. Oh no, I love him so much. Don't say that. Mm-hmm.
You know,
and
like
she faked us out with him too. Like we thought he was gonna die, and then he didn't.
Yeah, with the
and he didn't die. So I feel like she just wanted us to be like a little hurt, but feel like we get him back. So then later on, it'll really crush us when he dies.
That is exactly what's going to happen. Because really, right now, his purpose to the reader, he's giving the comedic relief that we all need.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the loyalty and the unquestioning friendship and the, you know, he's there in a different, less demanding way than Xaden and Xaden's family.
Well, and he also says, like, within their found family friend group that he's like, you know, I'm really tired of y'all just looking at me like I'm dumb, that I just sleep around, that I have like, that I don't know what I'm talking about. Because if you had been paying attention to me and not just like dismissing me and laughing me off, you can understand the value that I bring. Like, put our friendship aside, the value I bring to our squad, my intelligence. Yeah. Like, yeah, I'm very jokey about things, but I'm valuable.
And that's really interesting too, Jess, because, you know, like he can now do all these weird things with his ice powers. Like he's like Katara from Avatar. He can literally like freeze these people's bodies from the inside if he wanted to. And we were presented him as like this comedic relief character, like this lovable character. But I think he's either going to die or he's going to be really, really strong and like surprise everyone.
Okay, because isn't that like one of the follow-up questions that Violet says, is she's like, wait, so can you freeze venom from the inside? Like in the like enemies, can you start from their blood? He's like, I haven't tried that yet. I just got an orange.
Yeah, like the second that he did it to the orange, I was immediately taken to Avatar: The Last Airbender, because Katara can literally freeze, like, because she can do water, she messes with people's blood and she can like F them up. So I feel like he's probably going to do the same thing right before he dies. You know, we'll see.
You keep talking about him dying. Stop doing that, y'all.
Well, I'm sorry.
As we're talking about this, we should talk about signets. So you dropped some lore earlier. That is some epic lore that you should like. That's amazing. That's amazing. But let's talk about the signets, because I was also wrong on what I thought Violet's second signet would be. I was like so wrong.
What did you think it was?
I thought it was going to be some sort of like shifter something. Like it's like something with her joints or something, some physical thing, because there's so much emphasis. And like, I understand that Rebecca is disabled and this is a disabled character, but like she, especially in this book, because she was fainting and like falling down all the time and like tired all the time. And like everything was like miserable all the time with her body. And we know that she's not pregnant because Rebecca came out and said that. So for a while I was like, maybe there is something here, like maybe, but no. utterly and completely stonewall wrong. No. But let's talk about signets, because Kat says something very interesting to Violet talking about Xaden. She's like, aren't you ever scared of him? He wasn't like this when he and I were together. And Violet's like, well, yeah, like our signets evolve as we get like older and we train them. And so he would be more powerful as he gets older, right? Yeah. But everybody's kind of developing second signets, and Arik is developing his signet. And there is a line towards the end of the book with the Irids, where the Irids are like, yeah, and like your dragons gave you these powers. And Riddick is like, that's not how it works. And the Irids are like, shut up. Like, so let's talk about this. I would love a signet.
I mean, me too.
Right?
Like, what? Immediately, would wanna. I also think, like, I knew, like, Iron Flame, I knew the end of it that she was in this man's brain, but I didn't associate it with her signet. I don't know. I was just like, okay, this is just like weird, like Bond shit. Like, they've just been like, this is what they do in the Bond. Like, I didn't think that it had anything to do with her signet at all. So I'm excited to see how that develops, though I am a little sad that it's not something more like, I get it, like the balance between like lightning, which is like a very like physical thing, and like dream walking, which is essentially like a spiritual thing. They balance each other, but I was hoping that she would just be like a total and complete like machine. I don't know, like, which I guess like once she, fine tunes this dream walking signet, who knows what that could mean for us and everyone else. But
well, that's where I think that they're like, she doesn't have control over it because everyone's shields are down. I wonder if, with you saying that, if that means there's like a political angle that she starts popping into certain people's dreams. So like if they have, like if they're like dreaming about strategy or something, is she able to like get that information, go back to her team and be like,
definitely. I feel like that definitely would make sense for it. I also think it's interesting that everyone's developing like a second signet. Like Imogen definitely just popped out a second signet, and I don't I don't know.
Where did that come from?
It thin air.
It really, because at first a second signet was connected to having a second dragon. Your signet was connected to, so that's where I was like, why does everybody have second signets? I'm lost there. Did I miss something?
All the rebels are, they have a second one, which is just T. How? Tell me how. And how
do the Venin have them at all?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. How?
How? It is so interesting. And then something in particular, especially with Xaden, that I really liked about his character was that he was tempted. Like the whole time he was tempted. Like, so he's walking with this temptation. Every second he's breathing to channel this power underneath him, right? And like desiccate everything and just like be the most powerful version of himself. But he's like trying to tamp it down the whole time. And I like that so there's a language change that I'm sure everybody picked up on, right? He starts off calling her violence and he switches to calling her love. And the first time I heard that, I was like, who do you think you are, Aaron Warner? This isn't Shatter Me. But I saw some theories and I was like, oh, he is like saying it out loud and like reminding himself, like, I love her. Love. Like, this is love. This is not violence, right? Like, this is not violence. This is love.
That's real.
Over and over and over again.
And I've just blanked on her name.
Theophany.
Thank you. Doesn't she mention about love once you're fully Venin? The concept of love isn't there. There is no recognition for love. So I like that point that you made, Laura, is like the constant reminder that if he knows and associates her with love, then he's not completely changed yet.
or like on the ice, which is what they call it, is when he goes into that. But again, just kind of like circling back to this toxic relationship here, like she's got to like call him down, right? She's like, no, get off the ice, Xaden. Like, no. And he has to like look at her and be like, oh yeah. And like pull it back. Again, like I understand his like internal conflict and everything that he's working through. Very tough. But Violet, girl, go find Andarna's family. Like, come on, go do your plot. And it isn't until like he goes with her, like on their adventure, that we get like the rest of this plot line, which is kind of just traveling around and filling in the map for the cartographers that didn't do their job for whatever reason. And we're learning all these island places. And it is when we are at those island places that we have to fucking check in with Xaden and be like, how you doing? Are you okay?
Relax. Yeah.
All right, we're going to go on mission. Are you going to murder everybody? No? Okay. I understand the romance part of it, but also the other like independent woman part is like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, come on.
Like, get it together. Like, you have a goal. Like, you're supposed to be apparently more bonded to your dragon than anyone else. So, I don't know. She's losing the plot. She's losing the plot.
Let me tell you who I think the sexiest person is in this series so far. It's Taryn. I love Taryn. Funny, grumpy, reasonable, concerned, adaptable, strong, like, say less.
Well, he's the hear me out, honestly. He's a good hear me out.
He's a good hear me out, honestly, because throughout all of this, he has her back, you know, but he gives it to her real. He's like, don't involve the Dark One. Mm-hmm. Like, you know,
definitely need, like, if book 4 was all about the Empyrean and from the perspective of Taryn and Andarna, like, I wouldn't be mad. Confuse me a little more. I'd be happy with it. I feel like by the end we'd get all the answers we need because they clearly know way more than the writers do.
And that they're letting on because they let them know what's going on. So like what Laura said earlier about like the dragon politics. Then, and I'm thinking about the structure that you had brought up, Aris, between you have Empyrean Storm and Tower of Dawn. And I'm not saying like this isn't a theory, but how great would it be is while this other thing is happening over here, book 4 is the Tower of Dawn. This is what's happening in the Empyrean politics of it all. One thing I also really like about Taryn in this book is the communication that he allows Violet in completely when she loses Andarna and understands like she has lost a part of herself, as we know writers do with their dragons, and she makes it a note to say that he has dropped his shield completely, is letting her into every conversation, whether it's with Sigale, no matter who it's with, where even some of the dragon politics. So she knows that he is there and the tether is there and she's not completely alone in this moment. Taryn is a man. Like, he is a good...
I mean, I don't know. I feel like she has some serious, like, mommy issues that come out in Xaden and Taryn because, like, with her mom definitely was, like, hard on the outside, like, had, you know, was nice on the inside, like, had layers to her. And I feel like it's very similar to, like, Taryn and Xaden, except she's managed to crack both of these, you know, people where she couldn't do that with her mom. That's definitely why she's so involved with them, I think. Or a large part of it is definitely her mommy issues with being, like, constantly rejected by this hard shell, tough mother, who in the end was, like, there for her. I think it's definitely, like, they're all the same.
But then it also winds up being her villain and that she has to fight in the story, that it's her mom. She's fighting her mom, Theophany. And she's like, oh, shit. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it clicked for her then, too. And she's like, I'm not fighting myself. I'm fighting my mother. And she was never able to do that before.
Never before. And now we're going to see how that goes.
How did we feel when Andarna fucked right off? How did we feel about that?
I felt like, okay, go see your fan bam, girl. But
right?
I was just a little bit like, where the hell did this bitch just come from? Like, when she came back, and then also the fact that she could still... Violet was grieving, and so it really felt like there was some kind of bond cut, but yet she could still dream walk. I'm like, another why? How? Tell me why. But I was like, go in, Darna, go learn your people, Don't let her hold you back. You got to figure out your brand.
I agree. I do have a question for everybody here. Who is Llewellyn?
I was going to ask that. I was too embarrassed.
He is the guy who, okay, wait, work with me here, okay? He's the guy who helped raise Xaden after his daddy died, I thought. And he, basically also helped Arisha be a thing.
Okay. What is the name of the dragon that Andarna talks to with the spirally little horns that comes in and saves the day at the end and fires the ward stone? What is his name? Tell me it's not also Llewellyn.
No, it's not.
What is it?
Oh shit. Okay, now I gotta rip this book open because I'm like, I know it's not. I forgot. It's like, not I want to call him like Luis. I know that's not real.
I can't keep him straight.
No, yeah, I have to. Okay, so the fact that you even brought that up, I'm not going to be able to.
Now it's not at the tip of your tongue.
Yeah, now I'm not going to be able to live my best life, And I want to know, what do they think that they can train Andarna to do?
Yes.
Or are they going to teach her in the Drid ways and have her go against them?
Who can say? She is the criterium, though, right? Like, they left her on purpose.
Which is like, I'm glad that Violet said something to them. They're like, oh, this wasn't your purpose. And she's like, you left her. That's on you all. You don't like how she came out. Like,
his name is Leothan. Shout out to Rebecca.
Hey! Okay. See, this is an excellent example of the difference between traditional reading and audio, because in the audio they are identical. They sound the same.
They do sound the same. So I never know if I was like, wait, is Llewellyn a person? And then it would be like in Dragon. I was like, wait.
A dragon, but a person,
or is it a dragon?
Are they the same?
Well, I mean, and in fairness, there's another series by another author, Jennifer L. Armentrout, where she uses the same names, spelt differently, sounds the same, and one of the characters goes in between depending on if we're like in the prequel or if we're in like the present day of sometimes he's in dragon form, sometimes he's in human form. So like if you're reading a lot of these authors back to back, they start blending.
They do. But let's talk about though Andarna. So we're traveling through the islands and we're meeting and we're world building. We're meeting all of the societies and their gods, which I thought was a very interesting part because Aris, as you said earlier, like the little things that Rebecca puts in before the start of the chapter, a lot of that is like you would think that'd be like kind of just like throwaway stuff, but it's very relevant to everything that's going on. And a lot of it has a lot to do with the religious side of this society. And a little detail that I liked was that like magic isn't really a thing out in the islands. And maybe because of that, color also isn't a thing out in the islands.
Hair color is.
Right? Eye color is.
Yeah.
But like the sand and the trees and the rocks, like all of that is it gets like more and more muted. Mm-hmm. But then you have the Irids who are out there who are all of the colors and who are magic. And it's like, okay, well, okay, well, there's got to be something.
Well, that's interesting that you say that, because when I was reading that area, when they had finally got to like the Irids Island or whatever, the first thing they said was like deep black sand that was almost like, you know, and I had told my boyfriend, oh shit, the Irids are here. Like that is, and he was like, wow, how did you get that? I'm like, literally, sir, the black sand, like Andarna, is changing under the light. It's literally Andarna, like we're meeting them, you know? That's one of those little moments where you're like, okay, Rebecca, I see you. I see you, Rebecca. And it's like shining now, like, okay, we're somewhere where dragons live versus like where they're not, there's nothing. So, and everyone wants a dragon. They all want a little color in their lives.
Yeah. Yeah. They all want a little color in their lives, which is so timely. But also, there is a lack of knowledge, which is also very timely. Their knowledge has not been preserved. It has not been passed down. Our quest squad and kind of, Justinia too. Everybody's trying to like research. Notes are missing. Research is gone. And then we have the whole subplot of Violet trying to unlock her dad's journals and trying to learn as much as she can about the first like Paromish uprising, I believe. And that being about dragon eggs, which ties into the end, Aris, is what you were saying with like, what the fuck is going on at the end? But I found that the Violet reading her dad's journals to be kind of a plot device that really threw a wrench into her relationship with Mira in a way that I wasn't expecting, because the sisters usually like butt heads, but Mira is like really hurt by this. And she goes off to the grandma, and Brennan is mad that everybody's mad that she went off to grandma.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why? Like, what could, like.
Yeah, what did Granny do that Granny is not good people anymore?
I don't know. This is like fucked up family dynamics where I was like, I get it. Everyone's pinned against each other. Nobody is who we thought we were. I feel like Mira was just like kind of butthurt that she was like, oh, Brennan was the physical one. She like Violet was the smart one. And I was just like, what did you think of me? Like the middle child, the leftover middle child.
That's so true. And I feel like in any kid that like, if my parents died tomorrow and my dad was like, okay, I left all these journals for you, my Seth, which is my brother's name, I would be like, where's my journal at? Why do I have to go talk to grandma? Like, you didn't leave me even a letter? Which I know, you know, I'm sure he did somewhere. We gotta hope. But I actually have a question for you guys. Am I tweaking, or did I read a part that was like one of these like top notes, one of these things that was like, it had Asher, but not Asher Sorengale. It had Asher something else.
Yes.
Okay. I was like, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I also got that. I was thinking that maybe that was his like temple name. And then when he left temple, maybe because he took. I don't know. I think that is a fascinating little detail point that not a lot of people, you know, because those are really throwaway little lines up there.
Yeah, my girl, I need to read again. I know, like, there's something up with that.
With those excerpts at the top too, because Laura, you pointed this out with the first one, and this is how we knew that Jasenia was still essentially alive, because whatever is happening, she is still doctoring all of this. But there's a couple in here that say, I typed it, I noted it because I was listening and I was driving and I was like, write this down real quick. Recovered correspondence. So what is happening that these weren't excerpts from something. These were found. So something's on fire, something was discovered, something was infiltrated. But I was like, they either didn't get to send her, or like as historians we're finding this information because it was recovered. And that was another thing that stood out to me.
Speaking of recovered correspondence, another thing that kind of like sits wrong with me and like makes me mad at her mom from the grave is that she definitely knew that Asher was taking Violet somewhere, doing something. We know that because the granny knows about it too. And now Mira and Brennan kind of like, or at least Mira, she knows what's going on. So why is no one telling her what is going on? Like, tell me what is going on with me. Like, that to me is just rude and disrespectful.
Yeah, yes. and then she got upset that she didn't know about Xaden being Venin, and
it's like, girl, you know whole secrets about me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And you want me to tell you a secret about somebody else? Well, you're not telling me about myself. You know, like that is really. There was one that was like recovered correspondence between the mom and Asher, Lilith and Asher, and then it was like,
I'll never forgive you for this or something.
Once she figures out what you did or like what, I'm just like, what did she do? Rebecca. Like, it's another one of those things where it's like, what is it? Because now it feels like everyone knows what it is. And now Violet's memories are wiped as well. So we're losing even more information.
Is that, and her memory is wiped because of Imogen, or was it like, oh, I've been knocked out, what happened kind of memory?
Imogen.
Okay.
To wipe them. That was Imogen.
So that also is like, what if she Veninized herself then? And she's like, maybe I can live through it if I just don't know that I'm Venin.
Last thing about the recovered correspondence, we should note that Violet's rank doesn't change. She's still cadet. Like, so it gives a timestamp kind of where we are in the story. Because at the end, here's an interesting thing too. At the end, she's a duchess. So like, what happened here? That none of this stuff got sent. Did Tyrandor, you know, like the places that they're sending this stuff from, if it's recovered from there, which means that it was left now, but recovered, so fell later. You know, like
Laura, you know what, Rebecca, you're in her brain. Like, oh my God, I never thought of that.
Right, like it's
get out the red pen.
it's really something. It's really something.
Yeah.
Especially because they talk about marriage throughout this whole book, and then they're like
consort. Yes.
Yeah, like all of it. So it ties up very nicely towards the end. Let's talk about the backslide of the book. I would like to say that I did not, under any circumstances, suspect Panchek at all of being the sellout, being the one giving all of the information to the Venin. I was just like, oh, damn. And then when the dragon is killed and like desiccated, I was like, oh shit. Oh my God. Like, I was not expecting any of that. Yeah. I had the same feeling that I did when I saw, sorry, Jess, but that's fine. When Dany's dragon died beyond the wall in Game of Thrones. That was fucking rad. Like, it was the same feeling of just like, oh no.
No, yeah. And that, I think, has been puzzling me a little bit, because there's this whole thing with like the brother with Jack, but is the brother Panchek? Like, who's the brother? Like, what does that mean? I'm lost. You know, like, does he have a real blood brother? Like, which we know he does. We know he does because of, you know, the kids. But like, what? The Jack of it all? I don't get it. And Panchek, it doesn't shock me. It doesn't shock me because he just sounds like a bald old man. He just, and those people just like tend to be the evil ones.
And I feel like consistently this whole book, it's been them.
Yes.
Like, I was like,
the who was the first guy who was bullying her? Like, not Nolan, but him too. I imagine him as an old dusty white man. But the other one, who kept her in the dungeon.
Yes. I know. That's where my mind went when it was Panchek. I was like, of course it was Panchek. Why are we surprised?
It's giving same vibes. Like, nobody young and hot is keeping Violet in a dungeon, you know, or trying to fuck with her, you know.
It's all the old men who are threatened by her power.
Mm-hmm. That keeps switching up and making us think, you know. So,
You brought up mommy issues.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about Xaden's mommy issues.
Lord.
I mean, whoa. Actually, the whole sequence with the cake later, all of that is all very good. But first, I was not expecting Xaden's mom to pop out at all. At all. I was like, oh, well.
Did we think she was dead this whole time, but like both his parents were? Was that an assumption, or did he ever allude to that she left him?
I just thought they were both dead, but I don't know if we know that to know that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it was just the assumption because of all of the parents that died of the rebellion kids.
And pretty much everyone else we've heard about their families, you know. Someone's always trying to save their family in this series.
Xaden was like, Violet's my family. I got no one. And Bodhi.
We only heard about Violet, Garrick, and Bodhi, which also two very interesting characters to me.
If we separate this story into threads, Xaden's thread is about gaining and losing control with temptation, but also is like setting himself up to become Venin, and like, so putting all the pieces together so that when it eventually happens, everything is like together. But it's also like a little farewell tour for him, right? Like he's saying hello, goodbye, nice to see ya to his only living family, his mom and his two half brothers. He's going around the country. He's with Violet. He's with his family. He's the Duke again, right? He's regained his titles. He's set his house in order. He does give up for a significant portion of the book, where he doesn't feel like a cure is possible. But then we find out that he's been trying to do stuff with Brennan to heal himself. And then at the end of the book, he finally just gives in, hands to the ice and channels and wipes out all of the venom that we have here. So his individual storyline is kind of tragic, but also here's my little confession. I was really glad when he finally just channeled and was just like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, it's done. It's done. And I'm going to wipe out everybody while I'm doing it. I was like, finally, like, cause the thing about being on a pendulum like that is that you have to come off of it at some point. Mm-hmm. And the waiting is anxiety inducing and also just like enough already.
Yeah. And most of the time, like when people, it's kind of like how some people handle stress where you're taking things in and you don't outwardly seem affected by it until that big blow up happens. I agree. I was kind of glad he did it because it's kind of like, girl, him waiting to channel isn't changing anything about how far you are in finding a cure for him.
Yes. And you can't be together the way that you want to. And your entire life is focused on this. You're negating or neglecting kind of everything else, even though you're pulling it off by the skin of your teeth. So like enough already. And I like now that we are unsure of Violet's, I guess like Venin-esqueness, I guess. Yes. But we do know that she's the Duchess and, it's yours now. Don't look for me is Xaden's last words to her. That is interesting stuff there.
I mean, it is hella interesting stuff there. And if I were her, I'd be grabbing Eric and telling him, what do you see, honey? What is going on? Like, tell me what's going on. I know this signet. I would be slapping Eric around. Like, tell me right now what's going on. Because my family can't be real with me. I just got married, apparently. My hubby don't want to talk to me anymore. Like, Eric.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's the one who was like, he's known this whole time. And he was like telling me in subtle, not so subtle ways because he fucking knew. So what else does he know?
Oh, he knows so much. Like, he is such a shady little bitch, and I love him. Like, he's probably my favorite character right now because why can you speak all these languages? All of them. Why did you leave the biggest battle and just drop a blade in my lap? Why? Why could you not be there? Like, what do you know?
And then didn't they say at one point, they're like, wait, he's going in the opposite direction. Where is he going? Could you imagine just like fucking off on your dragon?
Aren't you Quest Squad? Like, that's why he knows something that we don't know. And there's that I was telling Kai that it reminds me of Doctor Strange because in like Infinity War or whatever, I'm just naming Marvel movies now, but whatever movie it was, where he like had all the time stones and he was like, there's only one timeline that, you know, we make it out of this alive. Like, is in this timeline, Eric had to like dip for them to live? Like, what's going on? I want to know. Another one. I want to know. Like, I'm like listing this also when Rebecca sees it. She could write me my note with everything.
You're waiting for that arc.
Yeah. Like, girl, what is tea? Give me the tea.
Theophany.
Oh, God.
Aris, talk to us about Theophany.
She scares the fuck out of me. Like, she scares me. But again, she's another one that takes me back to this, like, why do they want her so bad? Because if you can already lightning wield, it's not for her signet that you want her. Like, what's tea? You know, you already kind of, or you do storms. Like, what do you want from her?
But is it because they already have Xaden? Because remember, on like the human, not like non-venom side, it's having a lightning wielder and like Xaden together is that power couple, and they don't have that on their side.
I want to say that, but also like when she was having those dreams, which were really his dreams, the sage was always like, we're going to get you to get her, you know, like we want her. So why do they want her?
Is he the lore for her? And that's what Xaden's been saying. They don't want me. They want
He's
her.
He's a trap for her. And I fear she's falling into it. I fear she's going to fall into the trap, guys. He's the trap and she's going to fall into it.
So now, okay, we again, we don't usually do theories. So since we're talking this out, is that why Rebecca is giving us more POVs each time? Because there's going to be a time where it's going to be these characters, we need to know what they're doing because Xaden and Violet are over here. Because the last time we started getting introduced with like Xaden's POV, and then Iron Flame, we were getting introduced to Sloane and her mother's POV. Now we're getting Rhiannon and Imogen and back with Xaden's POV. So is it like this slow matriculation of other characters? Because soon we're getting, bless you. They're on the ground giving us the information that we don't know what's going on because this other thing is going on with Violet.
I don't know, man. It's all for us to learn later, I guess. Like,
these are all speculations. These are what I wonder if the authors hear us and then they're like, no, I don't like that idea, but that inspires me to do this other thing. Or they're like, shit, they're onto us.
I got to change the story now.
Yeah. Well, that's like what I wonder. I always think of like Hofas, where she had a whole entirely different copy. She had a whole copy. Threw it to the wind 30 days before it was due. I was like, what? No.
Something else that stuck out to me is the lack of presence for Rhi. Like, where is she? Like,
for who?
And it keeps being for Rhiannon. It keeps being like. It keeps being like, oh, she's like, you know, she's here. She needs to take care of what she thinks to take care of as Gaiath. I always say.
Because isn't she a squad leader?
Yeah, she's a squad leader. So it's like, oh, she needs to do her squad leader big one, you know, take care of her squad. But to me, that's like, you're a squad leader for a system that you guys don't really believe in anymore. And now all of your friends are on a quest squad and you're not in this one. Maybe it's her who dies instead of Riddick. Or maybe she does, because also she hasn't had her like, her big moment to be like, I can freeze like blood, maybe like, you know, like she hasn't had that. So I'm kind of like, what is her? We get a perspective, like a whole chapter in her perspective in this book, but she's not part of Quest Squad. She's not part of the book really like any other time. So why is it that we get a perspective from her at the end of this book? Like, what does that mean for her in book 4? She's not around.
Because really the only thing she's really done with her signet power was save Violet that one time in Iron Flame of taking the thing out of her backpack. Like
Exactly.
Well, she ripped something out of
and the venom
leg. I think.
The venom, her signet power. She's like, that's the biggest thing that I've been able to remove telepathically, or I don't know. The exact
there just has to be more for her, you know? And what is it? Because she wasn't in this book like you would think Violet's best friend would be. And instead we got a lot of Riddick, who is also one of her best friends, but not like the best friend, you know? So that
her and Rhiannon have been together since like day one parapet. They switched shoes.
Exactly. And we're not getting much tea on her. We get a chapter in her perspective, which I think is interesting. And honestly, and maybe I need to reread. Was it the chapter with the Irids or no, they were going into battle. Yeah. So
yeah, like they were already in, like Violet and them were already in battle, and she was on the ground, and she was like, "Where is everybody? This is taking too long." But we would know.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what is her role? What is her role? It has to be something big.
Something that we don't really have to speculate on, something that we can just enjoy in this book, is argue about if Dane had a redemption arc. Is Dane redeemed? Are we liking Dane? Are we encouraging a relationship between Dane and Sloane? How are we feeling here with Dane?
I'm scared to be like, I like Dane because, like, I don't want to be played like we all are when we read ACOFAE, you know? Like, I don't want to be played like that again. I do think that, like, okay, he's getting better, but I don't have full acceptance of him yet.
It's like when your friend dates somebody and then, like, they go back to them and you're like, we're proceeding with caution this time around.
Yeah, like, I will always proceed with caution. Like, he needs to do some crazy shit for me to, like, actually, like, saving her, okay. But, like, what else has he done?
I think Sloane's going to have a thing for him if she doesn't already.
Well, I think they're going to have a boo thing relationship. I don't know. But I think he cares about her more than he should. But obviously he thinks he's the cause of Liam's death, but I still think it's going to turn into something more like, you know, I don't know.
We need a new romance subplot. Yeah, romance subplot while this toxic, like this other stuff is going on with Violet and Xaden.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I feel like he's okay. Like, okay, he's part of Quest Squad or whatever, but like he needs to do more to get my trust back, you know? The one thing they brought him to Quest Squad for was to translate, and he couldn't even do that. Like,
and he was mad about it the whole time. He was like, then why'd you even bring me if you can speak all these languages?
Yeah, like, it was just like, what is his... He's another one that it's like, he can't just be Dane. Like, there has to be something, and I don't know if it's going to be good or bad. So until then...
Well, and he's still so by the book with certain things that they're like... Quest Squad is not about the rules. They're about what's right. And as we know, with government regimes, just because it's a rule doesn't mean it's right.
No, yeah. I don't know. I don't trust him. We're going to see. I really care about, if I had to, like, name my, like, and I would love to know y'all's, my, like, top 3, like, most excited about characters right now, it would be, like, Eric, because what the hell is going on with him? Zayden, obviously, because he's just hot. No, I'm kidding.
That's a valid reason, though, too.
And then I don't even think Violet, because I kind of feel like I'm getting main character fatigue with her a little bit. And we talked about it earlier with, like, you know, her just wanting to save him so bad. It's just not my MO. But, like, I would say, like I said, Rhiannon and Riddick. Like, those two characters, what's your bop? Like, Riddick is going to die. I know I don't want to kill Jess to say that again.
I love him so much. I was thinking about him the other day, and I was like, you know what? He has such comedic relief. And Laura, like, we always, you know, some people just have a type. And I was like, of course, Xaden. I love Xaden. I love him and them together. I love Xaden. But, like, if it was real life, I'd probably be like hanging out with Riddick because he's like, he makes me laugh. You know, I can be a little too serious sometimes.
I feel like everyone's leveling up. If you think about it, like, everyone is leveling up. If you were watching an anime, it would be in that moment where, like, they do a time skip and, like, now everyone has a new power and they're, like, really brawling. I feel like everyone's leveling up, and that's why it's kind of like, for me with Rhea, it's like, how are you growing? Like, what's what is her character development? We haven't seen it as much as the rest of them, you know? And then Riddick, it's almost like he's kind of like one you wouldn't expect as much character development as we got with him. And that makes me, like Laura was saying, that makes me think that things are going down.
So we're almost at the end of the book here. Let's talk about this crazy backslide. Let's talk about all of this. Lots of action in this last part of this book. Lots of nets. Lots of captured dragons. Lots of nets. Let me tell you my favorite scene.
Okay.
Let me tell you my favorite scene. My favorite scene is, and I alluded to it earlier. It's when Xaden sees that Sigale is under that net and he says, "Oh, hell no." Mm-hmm. You think that I'm going to let you hurt the first person that chose me? I don't think so. Boom. I'm going to kill all of you. I'm going to channel everything. Yeah. Like I love that. And I like how Sigale is like, don't do this. Like, don't do this. And then after Xaden channels everything, he looks at her. She's like, "Are you going to forsake me?" And she's like, "What's left to forsake?" Right?
Yeah. She's sassy. I love her. I
love it. That is my favorite. And that's like a huge chunk of this end scene. Cause we have Violet, killing Theophany with that knife. Now, did everyone make the connection that Theophany was a priestess when they talked about that faded tattoo?
She was like, it's like the other priestess. And that's where she made the connection that she wasn't just Venom. She was also this other thing, because there was a whole back story of like the levels that people are, and the closest thing you can be to God is a priestess, and then right under that is a rider. So if you can't be a priestess, then like the closest to God you could basically get is a rider, which is most people. And I think that's when they made the connection. She's like, "No, because you're so close to God. You're not just Venom." Because she was even dumbfounded too. She's like, but it's a dagger. How did this happen?
I feel like based off that, Jess, like everyone in this series needs to get their ego checked, like hard.
Oh, because everybody's a rider. I feel like Jasenia is the one who keeps everybody in place. She's like, "Y'all might know shit if it wasn't for me."
I'm like, what are we talking about here? We can't all be that close to God, you know? Like, yes, like we can pray and get close to him that way, but like we are not all like God, you know? We're not all mini gods. We're not all demigods just because you have a little power, you know? So I don't know. I think that's interesting that you say that, because it's like, okay, well, that goes back to how I feel about half these characters. Everyone here needs an ego check. Bad.
They make it a point to say that the Griffin Flyers, mm-hmm. go to temple. They're the ones that go to temple. They're the ones that pray. They're the ones that mind the altars. They're the ones that are very religious. And Violet's the one to be like, no.
She didn't. I feel like there's a line, and I'm paraphrasing, that she's basically denounced religion. She says it earlier on in the book, and then she says it later where she goes, "I don't believe in oracles, but I believe in signants." And signants, I guess, to her is like, that is tangible. That is science. You cannot denounce science when it's bad. I know science. This is okay. For science and fantasy. Okay. Like science and air quotes.
That goes back to everybody having an ego check also. 'Cause it's like, girl, like, Violet doesn't know shit. I'm sorry. She doesn't know shit. She didn't know shit when she started this, and she's getting powerful, and so she thinks she knows more shit. But like, there's still major things that she doesn't even know about herself.
That's such a good point, because like also everything that she does question, and Taryn tries to rein her back. Like, you got to control yourself. I'm not disagreeing, but he tries to check her. But everything that whenever she goes off course and follows the ego, she hasn't been wrong. So in her defense, she's like, why wouldn't I be the baddest bitch? Everything works in my favor.
Everything is going fucking ape shit. I disagree with that. Her mama's dead. Her daddy's dead. Her boyfriend's a villain. Like, everything is going wrong, in my opinion.
Things are good, but she's not seeing that. She's like,
no, she
compartmentalizes.
She's smart, you know. She's like, I don't know, like, how many people you guys have met that are like extremely book smart and just not that street smart. That's literally Violet. Like, she just like knows, she's a reader. She can absorb material well, but it goes back to what you said earlier, Laura, about like so many things that they don't know. Like there's not enough research on anything. Like they don't know anything. So for her to sit here and think that she knows anything about religion or any of that stuff, like she's just found out there are islands where there's no magic. You know, she don't know anything. That girl don't know shit.
You know, you bring that up because I remember the first time that, that Xaden was quiet and he's like, I'm just here for peace. My first thought was, this is the first time he's not touched with magic. He has no burden. He can just be. And everybody's like, why are you so quiet? And I was like, there's no magic. Is nobody talking about there's no magic? How am I the reader knowing that there's no magic?
Mm-hmm. Like he's not burdened by any of that shit, you know?
Yes. Oh, my heart for Xaden.
I was really sad when he like ended up using his venom power like on that one island. I forgot the name of it now, where the guy had the lions, the tigers. I was sad about that because I was like, okay, wait, maybe they could sneak off to this island and like live their best lives, and he's never a venom, and like, you know, like he doesn't have that pull, so there's no need. But then in the end, it's like, oh wait, there's some magic there for him to be able to channel from the ground. More things we don't know about.
Why?
Yeah, why? Why?
Why, Rebecca? Why? Like, come on, girl.
I was telling Jess this earlier, and I will share it with everybody here. Xaden kind of bothered me throughout this whole thing just because his storyline, while very dramatic and very integral to everything that's going on, he reminded me of somebody who is bit by a zombie in the beginning of an episode and then just hides it and hides it and hides it and hides it until he can't hide it anymore. And then it just takes over absolutely everything. And I really felt that way too, because he is slowly through this, I'm going to say, like, infecting everyone around him with this burden of knowledge, especially when it becomes very clear on the islands with the Irids when they say, like, flat out, like, bitch, there is no cure. You can't like regrow a soul. It's flaking off into nothing. It's gone. So I did kind of feel that was an apt comparison for a while. And then now that he is like gone, I am wondering what the repercussions are. Now that everything has kind of shaken out and Violet's there, she's missing her memories. Imogen says that she took them at Violet's request. She's got the like Emerald of Tyrandor on her finger. And Brennan is like, you know, you've been gone for 12 hours. What is going on? I think the setup for book 4 is going to be really interesting because I would say this is a cliffhanger. Do we all agree?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I also think, as you were just talking just now, I'm like, maybe Xaden was like, hey, girly, I can't stop channeling. Maybe I should go infiltrate and like figure out all the different people we need to know, figure out all of that stuff. But like, at the end of the day, you don't need to know this because you hang out with people like Dane who will read your memory and fuck everything up for all of us, you know? Or read your mind, I mean.
And infiltrating is so good.
Because he also took the eggs.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, he's bringing like, see? Yeah.
Yeah, let me into this so that I can figure it out. And when the coast is clear, I can go back to my girl and let her know.
And him being Venom is, like, I know we're all loving that, like, he just went full throttle Venom. But whereas you have Jack, who became Venom against his will, more or less, I think a big thing that was happening in this book is like the control, like, is Xaden in control? And it was here doing the sacrifice for Sigale that shows he was in control to even turn Venom because he knew that's what it would take. So maybe the fact that he was never fully relinquished to Venom and there was a reluctance there also, that the control part of him is still there.
I don't know.
I know. We're all just speculating.
I know.
I know y'all don't do a lot of speculating.
No,
here,
but this is fun because you like this is good.
I'm like, okay, well, if we say it and we put it out in the podcast, then we said it first.
Yeah.
That's because that has happened. We've done that's happened, and we were like, we said it. It's timestamp watermarked. We did it.
Yeah. No, yeah. I just feel like, why would she get her memories wiped if not because he's trying to infiltrate something and they don't want anyone who's close to her finding it out? Because she's so about like, I need to tell my friends, like, you know, even.
And they yell at her about communication and secrets all the time.
So she's like, you know what, just take it from me. Because Imogen, you're proven you can do this. You did this as a rebel child, you know. Take it from me. I can't. I'll go rule Tyrrendor in your stead, and like so we have control here, and then you go figure that out and come back.
Well, now that you bring up Imogen, you know, when at the last page of the book, and she goes like, "Where's Aiden?" She's like, "I did what you asked me to do," and we know that that's, you know, mentioning earlier in the book where she was just like, "Look, my barrier will be like if he doesn't love me again." But if she's already wiped the memories, is Imogen going to be planting false memories for Violet to move on, to focus on the shit that she needs to focus on? But at the same time, she's married.
Damn, can she do that? Is that something she can do?
We don't know anything. Nobody knows anything about their powers.
Knows. Strong and do that. Oh my God. She's going to get all strong and do it. I see it, Jess. I see it.
I see it. I also see it. Oh my gosh. Okay. So wrapping here, let's go through favorite characters, favorite scenes. Yeah? Aris, favorite characters, favorite scenes.
Okay, favorite characters, obviously. I already told y'all. Eric, he's one of my favorites. There is a mystery to him. There's a mystery to all the first years. I think that, like, they're going to be some powerful people that, you know, we just don't know yet. But him in particular, like, the idea of being a spy prince, like, that's kind of hot. No, I'm kidding. But also, like, having this signet that seems kind of like Melgren's, but almost different than Melgren is interesting, but also plays into the whole, like, there's the most uncommon signets, and they've only come together one time. Like, I feel like he's part of it. Violet's part of it. Maybe not Xaden anymore, because now we have that new character, who is a shadow wielder. That to me also was kind of like,
we didn't get his name, did we?
We did. Isn't it like Lynx or
something like that?
He's to me, the generation's shadow wielder.
Wasn't fleshed out enough that I think we're going to be. He definitely is the yeah, and it makes me hurt a little because it should be Xaden, but he's a little villain now, so it's fine. But yeah, I would definitely say Eric, because I feel like he's like undiscovered Brawlic person. Also Riddick too, another undiscovered Brawlic person that is going to have a big impact. And Bodhi isn't really like my favorite character, but I do think that he has bigger use than what we're seeing so far. Favorite scene wise, oof. I don't know what my favorite scene is. I think I liked the scene where they tried to poison them all and then they're running around trying to de-poison themselves. I had fun with that scene. Because, I don't know, it was just like, okay, be a bad bitch, Violet. Like, I see you. Like, your man's crashing out over here and you're having to handle business. I like to see that. And I liked Eric in that scene, too. He was just kind of like, I'm not here until I'm here, you know? And then, the Irids, when they rejected Andarna, I hate to say that it was one of my favorites, but I do think that it means something for later. You know?
Yeah.
Other than that, like, I don't think I have any more favorite ones. I think, like, the gift scene, like, I was away for work when I read that scene, and I was literally screaming in my little hotel room, like, what is happening right now? Like, did they just shoot Traeger with an arrow? We have a cat named Broccoli. Like, what is happening? Like, there's a bunch of girls with her hair. Like, that's a scene that definitely meant something. So those are probably my favorites. What about you guys?
There you go.
Okay, me, I would say that my favorite character this book and consistently would be Taryn. I just love him. But my favorite scene is when they served up Holden's guard's head on a platter. I did not expect that. I expected something. I didn't expect that. And then the cats come and eat her, like, but then the head, and I was in shock there. I was like, what is this? And then I was thinking, like, what would I do in that situation? I'd probably just like piss my pants. Like, oh my God.
Yeah. I would definitely piss my pants.
Yeah. I loved that. I was taken aback. I was engaged. I was surprised. I was all of the things, all of the feelings. I thought it was great. And I just love Tairn, my sassy old curmudgeon.
I can't wait for Idris Elba to play him because I know I'm manifesting that.
Yeah. Oh, he would be an incredible Tairn.
Yeah. It's even more of a...
Also, like, can we talk about Michael B. Jordan, like, producing it too? Like, come on. Like, I just feel like Idris would have to at that point. Like, do whatever Michael says.
And I feel like if it stays with Amazon Prime, obviously, like, depending on, like, different rights and stuff, that's just, like, you know, they can get the gore in there. Because, I mean, if you have The Boys... I feel like once you have The Boys and it's produced so well, you can have anything.
Yeah, agree. Well, Jess, what about you?
Yeah, take us home. What about you?
Tairn, obviously, favorite character. Consistently. I've loved him since he's been I love him. I really like Xaden this book. I think it's just because even though we've been saying like how they're toxic and Violet's just been about him, he's been about her, but he's also been doing bigger picture this whole time. He's setting up Bodhi to keep I
think that's irritating about Violet because it's like, girl,
she's just focusing on him and he's focusing on her too. He's getting all like, don't you threaten my girl in like all of these deathly situations. But also he's looking at Sigale. He's looking at the territory. He's looking at Erasia. He's looking at the school. He's trying to train the kid, like everybody for their runes and their signets. And like, he's really stepping up in being a leader, despite what he's going through personally with being a Venin. I think he just like exudes this leadership because he wants to, not because he has to. He has this like heavy burden responsibility that he feels like he needs to carry, even though he doesn't have to. And I think that speaks a lot to who his character is. And that, like, I don't want to say a character arc because he's always had this, right? It's just kind of steady as he's kind of like
hard time with like keeping secrets, man. And like in a good way, because I guess he has so much going on. Like he's got to keep a handle on it. But it's funny that you say that because literally, like, meanwhile, Violet is trying to figure out all this stuff about herself and like he's still like keeping things to himself. He has her brother helping him deveninize and like she didn't know, It's like you have two different people here. Like he's doing all this stuff behind the scenes to like do the best for his I
mean, it's very much in line with like spoiler Aelin, where she's kind of keeping shit to herself, but being a leader, not just for herself, but like for her people and for her kingdom.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay. Sorry. I had to write this down so I forget. There were two. Well, Xaden explains this. Xaden says, like, there are two people inside of me. There is a disconnect between my head and between my heart. So he is in a way compartmentalized automatically. Yeah. So he's able to do all of the politics stuff and set everything up because the Ven inside of him is emotionless. So he's like laser focused on setting everything up while also on Quest Squad, right? That disconnect with his heart. He feels when he is traveling around that he can be a little bit more open and have a little bit less control because there isn't magic out there. And that's his heart part of him being all for Violet. So yeah, that's interesting that you say that because he says that with the disconnect, he's able to like kind of do more. And you would also think that Violet would be able to do that too, because she's always putting things in boxes. But I also think, now that everybody has said this, that maybe that will come with her being the Duchess now. So, like, maybe she'll lock in now and get her shit together.
You know, he's like Shady Bones. Like, he's our Shady Bones king. Like, he always has something, like, he's hiding. Like, always. We always are finding something out because Xaden isn't telling anyone about it. So, to me, it's like, is he saying that because, yes, now he has an excuse to just keep his secrets to himself? And it's, or, you know, is it real? Is it actually that, I'm a villain now and I can't control that, or is it like, you know, or is it a real thing, you know?
I think he controls
like
it.
Earlier, like Venom could be like not bad. We don't know.
Are we just are we so immersed in fantasy so often that we're just like, I see nothing wrong with the villain.
Like, he's been shady. Like, he's like, all of Iron Flame, Violet was asking him to be more open and, you know, don't keep anything from her. You know?
I just had a thought.
Give it.
I just had a thought that what if Venom have something to do with, like, the dragons rejecting some riders after their bond, but they still have that need to, like, channel power? My point is, what if the Empyrean and the dragons created the Venom?
I definitely think you're onto something, Laura. I think you ate with that. And that is exactly why I say we need to have a book that's literally just the Empyrean, because they are doing some... Look, I'm not trying to say dragons are bad. I'm just trying to say that I think that there's a lot of things that we don't know that they do know. And this entire series, we've lived in the brains of the writers. But they don't let us... Rebecca has yet to let us into Taryn's brain. Or Segale's. Like, we don't know what goes on.
And the Drids are the only ones who know about, like, can, like, understand the Venom a little bit more. And then they go and fuck off and don't want to be associated with. And then when they do get confronted, they're like, well, if you're asking us, I guess it's still a problem. And then they still are like, we don't want war. We're gonna, you know, be neutral in all of this.
Even back to getting I feel like a perfect book would be like Taryn and Andarna, because they have two different perspectives. Where did Andarna go? It doesn't feel like she was gone for that long before she popped back up with Violet.
So, like, did you all of a sudden learn all the shit you needed to know?
Exactly. Like, homegirl, what did you learn? Or, like, did you leave and you just gave up? Like, what's happening? Like, there's something that you felt in your soul. I needed to be back here because of Violet.
And it wasn't a connection because the connection had been broken. And she broke that, Andarna.
But maybe it was, Jess. Maybe it was a connection. Maybe Andarna didn't close the connection. Maybe she just forced Violet out of it.
Like how they'll put, like, a wall up or something?
Mm-hmm. But even more intense. Like, maybe it was just, like, something like, girl, you're going to figure it out. But maybe there's no way to actually close that.
And we don't know, because all of a sudden she just shows up. There is no explanation to how she was just there.
No explanation. She just knew to be there at this big pivotal moment. And yet Violet doesn't remember shit either. Like, Andarna knows. What does Andarna know? But Violet doesn't remember.
Give us, if we're not getting a book for over 2 years, I think that's, like, what was said.
I want an Empyrean book.
Well, then, you know, and if she's already like, this is going to be a 5-book series, then are we getting a novella? Like 5 big books and a novella? Maybe we get the novella between now and 5 or 4.
I want to be lost. Like, at least for the first, like, 3 chapters. Like, I know everyone's saying they're lost in this, but when I talk to people most of the time, I think they just haven't read in a while. And they, like, didn't really know. Like, I feel like the most confusing thing about this is Isles that we never knew about. And, like, trying to nail down all the gods and what they do. And that was confusing about Onyx Storm. But I want something that's really confusing, okay? I want to be confused. Put me into Taryn's mind. I want to know about the Empyrean. I want to know all their little secrets, all their little tea. I know it matters.
Especially knowing that all the Empyreans, all the dragons, they're not on the same page. There are a lot of them who are very much like, we don't want to be part of this war.
Literally. So, like, what is if y'all are supposed to be leading these writers and giving them their powers and, you know, all of that stuff, there's 7 of you that put up the wards. Like, what is the tea behind the Empyrean? I feel like that's something that a perspective that we haven't gotten that I think, like, we need. And maybe when she joins the Venom, like I think she's going to, Taryn will be like, lots of thoughts. And Rebecca will be like, let's give you his thoughts.
Ooh, that's a good wrap.
Yeah. So I guess what the confusing part is, like, do you think a reread will be necessary for when we go into book 4?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, 100%.
I completely plan to reread this entire series before book 4 comes out. I think not rereading before book 3 was fun because I like hadn't, it wasn't that far. But like, if she's gonna take some time, and like, take your time, girl. I'm not rushing you. Give me a good book 4. I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, you're like, you can have as much time as you want. You say, as long as it's gonna be good.
Yeah, the second that SJM reveals that she's gonna drop her next book, I'm rereading. I'm rereading all of them. There's just too many. Like, fantasy is just so much in a good way, but like, especially like these types of series, like there's so many little hidden things that I really think would help us going forward.
And with that being said, feel free to follow us on Instagram. We're at ACOFAE Podcast. We're also both on TikTok, ACOFAE Laura and ACOFAE Jessica. And we just added a YouTube. Feel free to find our links, and we'll keep y'all posted. Talk to you soon. Bye.